All right. Hey, everyone. Ben Smith, James Gardner, Goliath Foundation coming at you on this Thursday afternoon or wherever it finds you in the Facebook feed. Ben, my brother from Mexico, how are you today?
Feeling very Mexican. Lean back.
There you go. You got your beverage out of camera there. I saw too.
I know. Well, it's fruit juice, nothing else added to it.
Sure. Haven't heard that one before.
I gotta say, I haven't had a beer in like a couple of years. And yesterday, I actually had a couple dark beer down on the beach because there's a little beach bar
Yeah.
right close to where we are, and I was like, God, that's good. But I had a beer in like 2 years, so it was quite.
Wow.
It's kind of different.
Little cerveza.
Yeah,
There
but
you
they
go.
were dark, right? So they were good. It was
Oh,
tasty. Hmm.
cool. I love dark beer. That's my thing for sure. For sure. Usually
Yeah,
don't go for dark beer on a Mexican beach. It's not really the thing to do, but hey, why not?
yeah, exactly.
All right, my friend. We're here, obviously, Goliath Foundation, How Healing Happens. We started this off last week. Where, for those of you that are joining us or tuning in, Ben and I get together and we just kind of reflect on our session on Tuesdays with a group of young men, supporting young men on their journey to their ultimate journey to understanding what happiness truly is and what it means for each of them uh, on their on their path to step into becoming the man that they want to be, not the man that society tells them they should be. So,
Mhm.
um, Ben, it was really interesting this past Tuesday, a couple days ago, where there was a kind of a theme that really hung in the air that we broke open, and that's what Ben and I want to talk about today, and that is this idea of loss, dealing with loss in society, family, loved ones, all of that, and and obviously just coming from a male perspective, a male lens of how do we deal with loss, and so forth. So, Ben, what was your recollection on, you know, some of this conversation spurred on by one of our clients, of course.
Mhm. Well, I think that he was dealing with not just his own personal feelings around the loss, but the loss because there was a pretty big loss in that community as a whole, right? So it was
Mm,
it probably felt like it was a little bit heavier than I mean, all loss can feel heavy, but it was a pretty hard loss for the whole community. Um, but I thought he dealt with it quite well. I thought he was dealing with it quite well, and I think the way that people deal with loss really comes down to how they how they view it, and also like just the story that like whatever they believe the life death of the experience is, right? That's going to have a real big impact on
yeah.
how you view and how you process that transitional period in life, right?
Yeah, that's a really great distinction there. That kind of life death story, because we all have one. We all have a narrative that we
Mhm,
create. Sometimes that changes as we get older and more wise, whatever.
mhm,
Um, but you know what? I'd like, maybe we'll talk about that. I'd like to start though with, these are young men that we're there holding space for each week. And when you and I did a kind of an initial run of this group last spring when we were kind of getting our feet wet with our content and so forth, something similar came up with another young man, and that's what I'd love to start this discussion is I feel that men in particular, young men in particular, um, they don't know how to process loss as easily, if I may, as easily as maybe a woman or a young woman can. Um, uh, Dealing with these emotions, and then also, the narrative that these guys that shared with us of creating, of they don't know how to feel, they don't know if they should, you know, be all alpha male-ish and not show that, and all of these things. So, what are your thoughts on that in terms of young men understanding loss?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of loss you're talking about. I mean, there's lots of loss, but if we're talking about loss of life and the life experience and all that kind of stuff, um, which is has a real finality to it, obviously. I think it's going to have to come down to what we always talk about, that you kind of need to know what your values are and how you stand on things. It really pays to think things through a little bit and know how you stand on all important topics before they hit you in the head and you're kind of left like shattered, like, oh my god, what do I do with this? So I think that can help. And also finding people that you can, like you say, just talk things through with a little bit. But I think one of the things that it would be nice if people did is they kind of think these things through a little bit, at least see how they feel about these things before they actually are getting hit in the head with it. Like, oh my God, there's loss, right? It's like loss is going to happen. We're all going to experience the loss of loved ones and whatever. But why not think about it a little bit? How do you feel about this life experience? How do you feel about the death experience? You're going to experience it one day, and it would be nice to have a little bit of lead up time to it and just like make peace with it, however that is for you, and that's a great. I mean, all of life is a whole bunch of situations where we have an opportunity to learn, right? So every death experience, it gives us the opportunity to
Mhm.
focus a little bit on on how we're going to process this experience that's inevitable, right? So
Yeah, so you're coming at it from a proactive standpoint, meaning just, look, it's the one constant, like the sun is going to rise, there's going to be loss in our lifetime.
mhm.
And we can do ourselves justice, young men of tomorrow and young people of tomorrow can do themselves a justice by not avoiding the topic, not choosing to avoid it, and maybe choosing to understand it, or at least begin to create an awareness and a relationship to it.
Mhm.
Mm,
Yeah, I think for sure that's would be a wise thing to do, and I just think that again, is we're all going to have to experience it sooner or later, right? So the sooner you make peace with it
right.
is, and I know for myself, again, like when COVID began, right after the lockdown started, my father passed away as well. So I kind of would have been fairly recently, in the same situation, and yeah, I mean, the way I processed it was just really try to appreciate, like, God, like my dad did this and he got to do this and like,
Mm,
wow, and I got to experience this with my dad, and just to really celebrate his life, because so in that way, I mean, once I shed a few tears, it was mostly just like I basically think about my dad and just like, God, you know, he came, he went, and he lived. Wow, awesome. And I got to be a part of it, right? And I think that, and I'd like to think that I'd like to take that perspective with all life. Like, they came, they lived, and they moved on, and I was a
yeah.
part of it. And there's lots of people that were a part of it, and wow, how awesome! And just soak the joy out of that. It was an experience that we all got to have through this person, right? And how blessed are we that got to be a part of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Flipping the script. And one thing you said though is you did in fact shed some tears. So you didn't hold back any type of emotional um, uh, outpour or effect. What you monitored though was the how you lived the experience of loss. So you gave yourself a permission slip to say, "Hey, I can feel sad and I can grieve, and that's great. And I'm going to choose to champion the experience, the happiness, the units of
Mm-hmm.
joy." the life fully lived, as opposed to focusing on the life that is now lost.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't want to talk too much about my experience, but I got to say, I basically, for a couple hours, I basically closed, closed off from the world, got in my car, and played and kept playing over and over. I don't know why, but "Come with Me" by Nora and Pure. Come with me. Anyways, it's a song. It's a popular song. It's a popular radio song,
Sing it,
but
Ben. Sing it for us.
I'm not gonna sing it, but I just kept playing that over and over and over again for like I just drove for an hour or two, and then I was like, and that was kind of my time to kind of shed a few tears, and then I was like pretty much done with it. Then I just kind of
Mm,
thought, I just pretty much like wow, like oh, I'm basically programming myself to just think about the good times and what a great life and blah blah blah, right? And
yeah.
I just think that for anybody you're going to be sad for sure. You're going to be sad, but the sooner you can just celebrate, the fact that there was so much great experience that this person had and that you had with them. And I mean, life, everything is like that, right? How are you going to choose the process? Are you going to choose to let it bring you down, or is it going to elevate you by, yeah, there was loss, but oh man, what they did, all the memories and all the loving times and
Mm,
all how great it was to have known this person. They're two very different experiences of the same thing, right? Like, oh no, they're gone versus, oh man, they lived,
they
right?
lived. Yeah. Yeah, they lived.
And
And tying it back to the work that we're doing, I look at the one gentleman who is a construction worker, right? Younger guy, and he was very open about struggling with understanding this loss, right? This one particular conversation, um, and how I guess my question to you is for I don't know how many young men.
much more uplifting, right?
Mhm. Speaking, I mean, we're on this kind of life and death conversation too, and I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't mean to, but you have a really great analogy that I like, that you've talked about before. I think it was with these young kids back in the springtime, and that's your ladle analogy, right?
Yeah, I forgot about that one. But
Ki-
actually, yeah,
Yeah,
do you want me to elaborate?
yeah. I would love for you to share it because I just it resonates with me, and I think it's a great, just a great visual.
Well, the way I like to look at life, and I've looked at it this way for a long time, is I imagine the ocean. I imagine the ocean. The ocean is always flowing. It's always, you could never in a million years stick a cup of anything or a bucket in the ocean, pull out that bucket and recapture that bucket again. It'll never happen because it's always moving. It's always changing. You'll never ever get that bucket again. And I like to look at every life like that. That in this you know infinite universe or cosmos or whatever you want to say. Um, each one of us is like a bucket or a cup taken out of the ocean. And every cup has the essence of the ocean. Every cup is filled with the ocean. It is the ocean. It's no less the ocean than anything else. It's just a smaller part of it. It's got its own, and within that cup, within that small little section of the whole, it develops, right? It develops its own life, it develops its own bacteria, it develops whatever it does. And eventually, that life just pours back into the ocean and it's assimilated into the whole again. And that's the way I look at life. I look at each one of us is just one cup taken out of the ocean. And we live our lives and we do what we do with our cup, and then eventually our cup just pours back into the ocean and it's assimilated and it's just part of the whole again.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's the way I choose to look at the life experience. That we are, every one of us is, I mean, you can call it God, you can call it universal, whatever you can call it. I mean, there's lots of different ways to talk about what the infinite kind of experience or the godlike experience or
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it is,
Sure.
but infinity or whatever. But I like to think of us all as being as much of that as the whole, only just a smaller version of it, living and walking and breathing and talking. And when our time is over, then we're just gonna our body will disintegrate, and the rest of us will just assimilate back into the whole of the
Mhm.
energy that is infinite, right?
Mhm. Yeah. And that ties into what you were saying earlier with, we all, young and old, can do ourselves a favor by creating our own narrative with what the life experience is, so
Mm-hmm.
that we understand it and we own it, and we have some peace over it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's for younger people. It's kind of that first, possibly dive into mortality, right? And just in terms of kind of a conscious awareness, right? I know you and I are both in a book writing journey, but I shared this. I actually wrote a chapter around kind of this kind of understanding a death experience from a young perspective, and then getting older, and I I remember being young, and my best friend Dave, my next door neighbor, we were probably 10 years old, walking to our neighbor's house, Peter, ringing the doorbell. And, the dad answers, says, "Oh, Peter's not coming to school today." Okay. We had no idea that his mom was sick. No idea that she was dealing with cancer back in the day, and she passed away. We were completely oblivious, to all this. And even then, like, I have no, it's hard to even recollect what a 10-year-old thought at that time of what that really means, not only for just in general, but for Peter and the family, right? But it wasn't until, obviously, I think I was 19 when one of my grandparents, that I was really close with, passed away, and that was kind of like my first foray into that realm. Didn't pay it any attention. Didn't have those conversations. You know. Um, so obviously, looking back, I think I would have been better served creating more of a understanding and a relationship with that viewpoint, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it would benefit anybody to sooner than later find a place where they're at peace with the inevitable experience that we're all going to experience first through the ones that we love and care about, and then ourselves, right? So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
funny, speaking of books and being young or whatever, I was always, I probably have mentioned this before, but I was always a real seeker, right? Like I was always asking questions.
Yeah.
My family was not, like, it was a real atheist family. At least my experience of my family, it goes deeper. But anyways, I was always asking questions. Jehovah's Witnesses would come to our door, and I had Christian friends, and later I had Muslim friends. I was always asking questions, and then, but I realized, eventually, you know, you need to find peace within yourself. Nobody can tell you what to believe. I mean, people can tell you what to believe, but the best counsel is for you to assimilate the information and find your answers for yourself about what's, because I mean, really, nobody really truly knows the death experience except those who've died, and they can't really tell us, right? So
Hmm.
you're kind of going to have to find for yourself that a piece with it, right? And
Yeah.
the sooner you do, the better. And like I said, I like that ladle analogy because just imagining, we're taken from a universal source or the ocean or whatever you want to look at it, and we get this great opportunity to take our own little piece of the universe and make it whatever we want, and then release it back into
Mhm.
the hole.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Release it back to the hole. There you go.
yeah.
Well, Mr. Ben,
So these are
um,
the discussions we're having.
yeah. This is good. I mean, it's again, right? It's just it's really it's cool. It's cool to bear witness to these young men kind of having these discussions. I never had these discussions when I was their age. I wasn't sitting around with a bunch of guys and holding space
Mhm.
and championing each other from a from a very softer emotional kind of support.
Mhm.
It's nice. It's nice to see, right?
It's so nice. It's so nice, and it's so great that they're getting the opportunity to find, to be able to do it younger than we did,
Right.
really. I
Right.
mean, so that's great. The younger the better. I think that people start to kind of open
Oh,
up
for
and
sure.
space and figure this stuff out, right?
Nice. Awesome. Well, I look forward to jumping in that group with them next week, and then
Hmm.
you and I will be back and share some insights with our community. All right.
Absolutely. Cool,
All
man.
right, Ben. You have an amazing evening as
Yes,
always. You're the
you
man.
too.
Mad love to the courageous, and stay safe. Be proactive. Seek relationship. Be a seeker, Ben. Be a seeker.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do
Do, 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 do.
it.
All right, Ben. I will hang out for a sec, and then I'm just going to log off here. All right. Cheers.